Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of career advice and life and perspective and everything in between. My name is Rafael, and I'm coming to you from the best studio in the world, the one in my office, in my home, the one that I'm most excited to be recording in. And today I'm going to be talking about workplace likability, or maybe more generically, likability in life. Now, these are some of the things that I've observed in the past 8 years working in the same company. But like I said, more generically, I'd like to think that I'm a likable person. I think all of us want to think that we're likable people, but I do think we've all experienced some people that are more likable than others. And I just want to talk about some things that I've noticed and maybe some things that you can do in life or probably in your workplace to make you a little bit more likable, because we have all run into people that are very smart and very intelligent, but they're just a pain to work with, right? Sometimes I'd rather work with someone that maybe isn't the smartest one in the room, but is just more willing to learn, more, let's say, adaptable to different situations, more stable, right? Sometimes the people that you wake up in the morning, you say, I want to go to work because I get to work with people like this, and I'm not surrounded by people that are, like I said, are just a pain to work with. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. I'm actually reading off some notes that I have here on my phone because I always want to make sure we're organized. And the first thing here that I have is that small talk matters more than you think, especially if you follow up on a previous conversation and you remember it. Okay, so think about the classic water cooler chat, for example, right? Or maybe you're just going to the restroom or you're passing someone in the hallway. Do a little bit of small talk here and there, right? Try to be a little more personal. Some of the people that I enjoy being with a lot, they frankly know a lot about my life. Now, for some people, this may be a bad thing. Some people are genuinely very private. I'm a little bit more of an open book, but I do think that a little bit of small talk goes a long way, right? You don't necessarily want to be the loner in the office. You don't want to be the guy that always has his headphones on. He sits alone in the lunchroom and no one ever knows about. He might be the smartest one in the room, and I've certainly come across a lot of people like this who are very smart. But again, it's just not someone that I necessarily would want to work with. So next time you're maybe getting water or you pass someone in the hallway, ask them how their day is going. How was their weekend? It might seem a little bit meaningless and sort of like you're playing a game, but these small things, they add up and compound over long periods of time. And you might find that maybe you're going to be invited to more meetings or more projects. You'll have a little bit more opportunities than the people that don't necessarily put themselves out there. And here's a bonus. If you're someone that's a little bit prone to social anxiety, doing these little bits of practice are going to get you more confident in front of people, and are just going to make you an overall better speaker. And I think whether you're in the office or in life, I think it's going to bode very well for you, if that's even how you say that saying. But it's going to do well for you no matter what setting that you're in. So practice a little bit of small talk. At least say hi, good morning, and good night, right? You can just start with that. 3 very simple things you can do that I think are just, bound to make someone's day. And while you're doing it, do a nice smile too. Hey, how's it going? Good morning. Or good night, see you tomorrow. Something like that, something very simple. It'll just be that much more memorable and that much more probably just personal. And I think at the end of the day, we're all social creatures. We all want to be more personal to each other. And I think this will get you closer to that point. Okay, so the next thing I have here is saying people's names builds instant rapport. People love hearing their names. Now, if you have read a book called The Habits of Great People by Dale Carnegie, I believe, something like that. I have the book in my house. I just haven't read it in a long time. But if you've read this book, you're going to know that in the first chapter, or maybe at least in the first 3 chapters, he mentions how saying people's names, gets them to instantly like you a little bit more, because I'm sure you've heard your name before, as long as it's for something good. Maybe you grew up and your parents yelled at you and they said, Raphael, come over here. Or I don't know, something else. They yelled your first name, and that's never good, right? But if you've heard your name in a positive setting, maybe while someone's talking to you, generally that's going to make you feel pretty good. It's going to make you feel like, hey, that person remembered my name. Especially, right? And this is a big one. Imagine you just met someone, okay? Think about this, right? Let's say you're a student. Let's say you're in high school or in college, or you're just starting out your job, and there's someone that you like, right? A member of the opposite sex captures your eye, and all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I really like this person. Let me go introduce myself. And you introduce yourself to them. And guess what? The next time they see you, they remember your name, right? It's never good if you meet someone, whether it's for a partner or a best friend or a teacher, and they go up to you and say, I'm sorry, what was your name again? Because that means you weren't very memorable, or it just means they weren't paying attention. But imagine that if someone came up to you and remembered your name and they said your name, or if you did the same thing for someone else, the type of dopamine that would give them, right? It's a nice rush. People love hearing their name. The next time you see someone, this goes very well with point 1, just make sure to say their name. For example, there's someone on my floor called Fernando. Hey Fernando, how you doing? Good morning. Good to see you, man. How was your weekend? Everything good? Awesome. All right, have a great night, Fernando. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great weekend. So on and so forth. Just say someone's name. And if you have difficulty remembering their name, you can always sort of spin it up in a joke. Let's say they say, hey, I totally forgot your name, but you know what? This time when you tell me, I'm gonna write it down on my notepad so I don't forget. And you can say, okay, let's say someone on your floor is named Michelle, and you're talking to them and they're wearing some type of article on their self, right? You say, okay, Michelle with a blue shirt. Kind of make a joke out of it, make it a little bit more personal. And I think, again, that's just gonna get you more towards the goal of being more likable in the workplace and probably in general in life, okay? Let's go to the third one here. So being reliable makes you respected, not just liked. Okay, take pride in answering back to your colleagues quickly and effectively. This is something that really I notice a lot, at least in my job, and I think probably a lot of people notice in their day-to-day, and honestly not even, it's outside of work, right, too. You message someone and they take forever to get back to you, right? Or the worst thing is like you just hung up with someone on the phone and you message them and it's like, I literally just talked to you, so you must have your phone on you unless you just literally hung up and threw it, and they take forever to get back to you. Okay, and this is okay. I mean, a lot of us, I think, are just used to it at this point. Some of us don't really mind if we have to wait a little bit longer to text someone back. It is what it is. But if you take the time to actually respond right away or in a timely manner, it just feels good. Okay, and I'm not talking about, I know when we were all teenagers and you message that person that you like, it's cool to wait a long time to make it seem like you're busy, even though you're just sitting on your sofa like I am here and you're just twiddling your fingers, wondering when they're gonna get back to you. That's not the point here, okay? Like, we're all adults, we all work, we all have, mature adult lives, so it's time to be reliable, right? Be efficient in your communication. That goes a long way. I can't tell you how many times I have issues at work and I ping people and they take forever, sometimes days to get back to me, sometimes hours, and it's just a little bit frustrating, and I know sometimes they're in the office and I can get up and talk to them in person, but the fact of the matter is we're all busy, but I just sometimes feel like it shouldn't take that long to get back to someone, especially if you're using like an internal chat tool at your office. It's generally easy to do that. So I think a tip for you, or an exercise if you're listening to this and you feel like you struggle with this, is challenge yourself to get back to people quickly. You can set notifications on your phone or on your computer to make this a lot easier, so every time you get a notification, you'll know when to answer. And I just think people are gonna wanna work with you more. Imagine you had to pick a team of people, right? And you had a decision between someone that never responded and someone that did respond. Wouldn't you pick the person that was more communicative, that was better at communicating? Whether it's for good things or for bad things, you can always rely on them to get back to you with something. And I think when deadlines are tight or you're feeling that crunch time, I think being able to reliably communicate with someone is very important. And again, it's going to make you more likable, okay? So let's go to the fourth point now. We have handling conflict with grace earns long-term trust. Use the compliment sandwich technique when giving feedback. So there's two things I want to say about this. Handling conflict with grace earns long-term trust. Okay, so I was sitting, I sit in a row. There's four of us on this row, and I remember I was sitting next to one of my colleagues one day, and someone else came to his desk, and they sort of ridiculed him in front of everyone. Now, obviously the people around aren't going to like remove their headphones and stare, or, but they might sort of be listening without appearing like they're listening. And I remember this person was telling my colleague, like, why would you do that? Why do you think that's the correct way to approach this? You should know a little bit more. And I remember sitting there and thinking like, man, this, no one likes to be ridiculed in front of their peers. And at the end of all that, my friend, he just said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do better next time. Because that's the mature answer, right? You're not gonna go on like a public frenzy and go crazy and say, oh my God, I'm so upset that you did this. But I guarantee you that my colleague just was kind of beat. He probably didn't really want to interface with this person anymore. I certainly would not to, right? Because it just makes you feel bad. I don't want to work with people that make me feel bad. But you know what the better thing could have been? Is to take this person to a private area and give them the feedback there. And that's the second point. So this is like, there was 4A, 4B, is use the compliment sandwich technique when giving feedback. So compliment sandwich is you start off with something good, and then you give your feedback in the middle, and then you end off again with something good. Okay, so let's say this person messed up, and this is a very generic template, but something could be like, hey, let's say this person's name is Bob. Like, hey Bob, I'm so excited about all the new work you're doing. It's so cool that you're learning all this new techniques. And honestly, on our team, we can use all the help that we can get. But I noticed there's one thing that you did here, and I just want to show you how it's done, so that way you learn how to do it, and you can probably show others how to do it as well. So if we just sit on the computer, let me show you real quick. And then let's say you go and you type on the computer, or you write something down. Awesome. You finished that piece, right? So far we've done first compliment, feedback, and the last thing you can end again, say, hey, Bob, thanks again. I'm so happy that you're helping us. Honestly, I'm so swamped. So any bit of help can help on the team. And I'm just glad that you're helping contribute to our efforts. So you see how I started off with something good and then something sort of like the feedback. I wouldn't even say it's negative, and then something good again, right? And even that middle piece, which is supposed to be the criticism, you can still frame it in a positive way. Like this person took the time to say, hey, there's something that I've noticed that you've been doing that I think we can work on together. So let me show you how it's done. You say, I'm taking time to show this person and mentor this person. And think about both scenarios, right? One scenario is person comes up to you, they ridicule you in front of all your peers, and you feel terrible, and you're thinking, this sucks, my day's over. I just want to go home and sleep, and I'll start again tomorrow, right? I never want to work with this person again because they're just mean. They make me feel bad. Or scenario two, you get the compliment sandwich, and now you're thinking, you know what, man, I feel great because I learned something new. This person's so cool because they took the time to explain it to me, and I don't feel bad, and they did it in private, so no one even knows any better, right? Everyone's just as happy as they were before, and everyone's happy now. And again, it just makes you a more likable person. So if that's your goal here, you want to become more likable in the workplace, learn how to do this, how to give constructive feedback in an adult manner, okay? And finally, giving credit makes people want to work with you. So this is such a simple thing, right? I mean, give credit where credit is due. That's very important. Don't blatantly give shout outs to people just because you feel like they deserve it, or you feel bad for them. Give it when it's genuinely deserved, right? At the end of a project, at the end of a hard day, at the end of anything that you feel like you really put a lot of effort into, tell your colleague or your friend, hey, great job. Can't wait to work on it again tomorrow. I think we make a great team. That's super cool. Because now this person feels pumped. They're hyped up, right? Like, oh man, this is so great. I feel awesome. Like, look at me, man. I did great. Pat myself on the back. I did a great job today. It's just a nice sign of appreciation. That's all it is. People want to feel appreciated,
I just want to be appreciated.
People want to feel appreciated. And I think if you just take the time to give someone that appreciation, that feedback, it makes them feel so much better. Actually, I know that, it has nothing really to do in the workplace, but in terms of relationships, people that tell each other things that they're appreciative of, they will statistically last longer in a relationship, right? So let's say someone does the dishes or someone helps you clean up. You say, hey, thanks for doing that. I really appreciate for you doing the dishes, or thanks for fixing the bed. Thanks for doing the laundry. Little things like this go way further than any grand gestures of love. And the similar thing can be said in the workplace or in life. So there's 5 things that we talked about today, okay? Let's go over the 5 real quick. The first one was small talk matters more than you think, especially if you follow up on a previous conversation and remember it, right? I don't know if I hinted at that in the first one, but remember the previous conversation. You said, hey, I know your son had an event at his school the other day. How was that? Or hey, how was your doctor's appointment? Everything okay? Something like this. Remember the conversation, right? Show that you're paying attention. Number 2, saying people's names builds instant rapport. People love hearing their names. Number 3, being reliable makes you respected, not just liked. Take pride in answering back to your colleagues quickly and effectively. Number 4, handling conflict with grace earns long-term trust. Use the compliment sandwich technique when giving feedback. And finally, giving credit makes people want to work with you again. Take the time to acknowledge your peers. Okay, 5 very important things that at least I've experienced in my life, I've experienced in my workplace, and I feel like I have been able to have more opportunities because of these things that I practice. It's a very key point. This is a skill like anything else, right? So if you feel like you're in your similar hole, maybe you feel like, why aren't people asking me a lot of things? Or how come I feel weird around people? People act strange around me. Maybe really assess yourself and see if these are some of the things you can improve on, right? It will benefit you in life, not just in the workplace. So if there's anything else that you think if there's anything you guys think I can add, drop a comment, let me know. Have you already implemented these yourself in the workplace or really anywhere else in your life? And yeah, as always, I'd love to start a conversation with you all in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, and I have a lot of more ideas to do. So I can't wait to see you all guys next time. Or can't wait to see you guys all next time. There you go. Awesome. All right, guys, take care. See you next time. Later.